All right, let's move on. Finally, this is a story very near and dear to our hearts. For those who are sick of hearing us talk about it, you can skip this, but this is not something that we can just simply let slide. So we brought you the disastrous launch of CNN Plus, and our friend Sarah Fisher, let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen, reporting already big cuts now coming for CNN Plus after a slow start. So the official number of people has yet to be acknowledged by the people inside of CNN, but we do know now about the numbers. So to date, $300 million has been spent on the subscription service, including a sizable marketing investment, up to $100 million. And yet, the start has been such a disaster that they are already planning on cutting a huge portion of the staff, some of the original plans for it, and are scaling back how it's going to look. I've done a lot of reading into this, and it's amazing that the CEO of Warner Media, Jason Kilar, before the merger with Discovery, finally was forced to admit that now the plan is, in order to roll CNN Plus into HBO Max, basically have it a standalone subscription if you want it, but really just make it bundled content while people are watching movies and whatever awesome shows are on HBO, and then not have to reveal just how much of a disaster the thing really is. Because Jeff Zucker was intent on making streaming CNN Plus its own standalone thing that he thought that people would pay for. And what's really incredible about this is that they say CNN executives worked with the consulting firm McKinsey to think McKinsey, the famous consulting company, told CNN they were going to bring in 2 million subscribers in the United States in the service's first year, and 15 to 18 million after 4 years. Just to give you an idea of how bonkers this is, 2 million subscribers would be about 5 times what a average CNN broadcast, 4 times what a CNN broadcast is getting during prime time right now, Krystal. Wow. Their average is 677,000 subscribers. My math might be a little bit off. Sorry, math people. But that's just how many multiples of that. And now the rule in the subscription business is that about 3 to 7% of your big audience will pay. So it's clear these people have no idea what the hell is going on.
Yeah, it's like the most basic understanding of how this ultimately works out. New York Times subscriber base is like 7 million people.
Exactly.
And they thought they were going to get 18 million?
They're going to get double in New York Times?
Yeah, like, you're insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the addition to the story of McKinsey.
Of course. All the greatest players are inside.
Exactly. Well, I think if you've ever needed to understand how fake the meritocracy is, I think this story is the perfect example. You have, the highest levels of elite media figures, supposedly the greatest minds in American media, trying to figure this thing out. You put it together with the brightest minds of the McKinsey consultant world, and they come up with something that is absolutely dog shit and completely insane.
Right.
And the numbers, like if you had asked any just random person on the street how this would have gone, tell them here's what we got, here's what we're investing in, here's what we're spending money on, they would have been like, are you out of your mind? You're gonna spend $300 million on this thing? This is insane. And so we talked about this some last week, but as a reminder of how this is actually going outside of their highly paid consultant world, let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. Fewer than 10,000 people are using CNN Plus on a daily basis, 2 weeks into its existence. That's according to CNBC. Fewer than 10,000 people. I cannot begin to communicate how utterly pathetic that is.
If we got that, we would be a failure, a huge failure.
Oh, yeah. We couldn't last beyond the first month if we got that.
No way we'd be able to keep the lights on in the studio we would not make payroll if that was what we were doing.
Literally, if they opened up the windows at their headquarters in New York and yelled out the window, they would reach more than 10,000 people. Literally. Literally true.
Yeah.
And so what they're finding is they're learning that when they have to actually compete in the free market, guess what? No one really wants anything you have to offer. And I don't know why you didn't know that to start with. I think the other thing that it kind of reveals too is how fake the YouTube algorithms are, because you see, you know, the numbers that they're able to get on YouTube when they're actually like competing in the free market here. You see how utterly pathetic it is. So you see how sort of propped up their numbers are on YouTube as well, 100%. As independent media is being suppressed.
Oh, 100%. Because it also shows you the engagement also of their audience, which is that they get these fake views, which are pumped out into the news tabs and the algorithms and all that stuff, but it's not actually engaged groups of people. And look, we said this. We beat that 10,000 figure within the first week of launch with $50,000 of our own money that we had to invest in this product. That is compared to the $300 million that they had to spend in order to do less than what. No, look, I'm not saying we're as powerful as CNN from a popular culture perspective in terms of their impact on the news. Obviously, they have news gathering and all that. And I've praised many good journalists who are actually work over there. But clearly, they have a major editorial problem. Whenever they're shedding viewers, subscribers, like I said, 677,000 in primetime is a total disaster.
Yeah.
And look, it just shows you how fake this whole business is. It's rigged. Because what happens here, they make $1 billion a year in profit just from being part of the cable bundle. Because a lot of people really like live news. But as that begins to diminish, whenever it comes to negotiation time, 7-8 years from now, on their live news property, they're screwed. Because a lot of people are cutting the cord. And in a cord-cutting environment, you got to compete not just with us. I mean, you got to compete with TikTok. You got to compete with Instagram. You got to compete with whatever your uncle is emailing you. This is a true free market where you don't just have 3 options. You have gajillion options. And we've been very lucky that, you know, many people have showed up for us, but that takes a lot of time and a lot of trust to build it up over many years.
And as we always remind you, that doesn't mean they're going to give up and they're going to be defeated and we're going to win. It means they're going to try harder to rig this market too. 100%. And there was another piece in the New York Times trying to take Substack down a peg and all of that going on. So you have to see these things as a piece. I mean, Elon Musk's Twitter story sort of fits into this as well. This whole regime of like censorship and telling you which platforms you can go on, which content sources are okay, which platforms are okay, podcasts are dangerous now. All that's an attempt to keep control over a market that they really aren't able to compete in just on their merits. Yeah,
and we're going to see, I mean, the Substack article in the New York Times was a perfect example of they like tried to cast it as some crazy right-wing company, which, you know, is elevating all these horrific voices. I went and checked. Okay, I actually ran. The number 1 person on Substack is Heather Cox Richardson, who is a huge Biden lib. Number 2, I think, is The Dispatch. Or maybe it might be Matt Taibbi. They switch back and forth all the time. The Dispatch, which is Never Trump magazine. The Bulwark is also a Never Trump magazine. Then it's Matt Taibbi and Glenn Greenwald, who are within the top 5. But of the top 20, the majority of the outlets are actually establishment-type liberal ones.
Right.
Matt Iglesias is in the top 20.
Right.
Judd Legum, the guy who's always, you know, going after corporate sponsors of Fox News. By the way, whatever, you know, it's a free country. He can do whatever he wants. There are several establishment Never Trump type organizations, people who have CNN contributorships who are owners of some of the top Substacks. It's just ludicrous to say that it's a right-wing company. The internet is a massive place. That means sometimes people like yours truly will succeed, and we will succeed right alongside many other people who are filling different niches. That's the real promise of the technology from the beginning.
Right, and like you said, like I'm not like, oh, it's terrible that some like annoying resistance lib person is doing.
I think it's cringe, but you know,
fine,
it's a free country.
Yeah, okay, she's obviously providing something.
Yeah.
She does history.
People like it.
And people like it. Yeah. Okay, that's cool, that's great, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway, if you're like secure in your ability to compete in that marketplace, that's the attitude you have. And if you are like CNN and you know you're gonna fail in that marketplace, then you have to, you know, you gotta put it down, you gotta smear it, you gotta try to make it so that people aren't allowed to go or talk or speak in these various forums.
Absolutely right.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.